is Bob Chandra from BBD, broadcasting from the studio in Delhi on this Saturday, September the 18th. A lot of excitement in the house because my son's coming home from the United States this week. A lot of preparations and great stuff. Now I had this really interesting conversation with a very senior retired general yesterday, and we were discussing the probability of a war. My thought process is that it's inevitable. He, on the other hand, felt that wasn't going to happen, and he's going to eventually come on my show for a chit chat. We're going to probably do something once a week or once every 2 weeks on topics of geopolitical interest. His view was that, before one thing he told me is that obviously he says India, one thing is for sure, has an advantage right now because of the moves it made on the Kailash range. China is worried. He says India's approach, he says he gave me an example of what they're taught when they're either in the NDA or in the IMA. Everybody has to box. So when they're in a boxing ring and say, for example, there is a superior opponent and you've kind of given the best you could and beaten the hell out of your opponent, and that guy is almost all but out, and you won. You would have two choices. One was to give him an uppercut and finish the story and put him on the ground. The second is let it be, and you won, right? It just seems that almost everybody has this ingrained thought process in their mind that that blow is not necessary, and the enemy should essentially be able to leave with honor. And I'm assuming that either has to do something with us culturally, or maybe it's the gentleman's army that was given to us by the British and the Western world. But what it forgets is our opponent are barbaric. They don't understand civil behavior. Their entire positioning is to get one up on you. And as like I read out yesterday, China's belief is you have to hammer transgression with a heavy hammer so that the other fellow subsequently, like in 1962, doesn't raise their head again. They did it to us in 62, right? Now we are one up. Now the question is, why would we go and hammer them and keep them down? This seems to be, unfortunately, in our DNA, not only in the armed forces, but also apparently, I guess this comes from whatever our old cultural history is. And maybe that's the reason why we were constantly invaded and ruled, and who knows, right? But we just don't have what it takes to give a blow, a telling blow, because we are fearful that if the other person is embarrassed he would be a worse enemy. But what we forget is what we've been told all these years, that a hurt animal, an injured animal, like a tiger or a dragon in this case, or an elephant, are far more dangerous than animals that are not in any form or fashion injured. Right? So today, at this point in time, I think by sticking to our old ethos of whatever Buddhist learning or our old cultural learnings or the Gandhi philosophy, we unfortunately are again not reading China right. And this, in fact, in my opinion, is the time to hit him, and hit him hard. I felt that China probably will retaliate because they cannot for sure take this lying down, because already, according to him, the messaging across Southeast Asian governments is that India has stood up and people are taking note, right? So China will not stand for that, because its whole intent for this attack was to put India in its place. Now that's incomplete till we are really taught a lesson, and these moves that India made are something that are beyond their grip and imagination. However, he feels that they won't attack because essentially they are at a disadvantage and they have a lot of problems at home. So, and that might be the actual truth. But one important point that we should note is that while everybody on top, the bureaucrats and the retired officers may have forgotten the humiliation of 1962, what he told me is something which has been totally underestimated by the Chinese, is this, that the regiments that were present during 62, who have grown up with stories of the valor of their predecessors, have grown up with the stories of the horrors of what the Chinese soldiers did, are actually just high-strung and want to fight. And that's the reason we got a response like we did at Galwan, because we got 20 dead. But even the foreign press is reporting as a press that you cannot really discount, like the Newsweek, that almost 120 plus died from the Chinese army. That's the kind of aggression, that's the kind of blood that's boiling at the ground level with the Indian soldiers. The Indian soldier is far more ready to take on the Chinese soldier at this stage, who's kind of a soft kind of a character, essentially because he's got the sprint sling, he's a single child in most cases. He's got, just look at a single child, he's got parents who will go, if they lose him, will become, all of a sudden have no family left, and you have 4 grandparents, you have 6 people who suddenly will become childless, grandchildless, and that's a huge advantage that India has. And that you can already tell what's happening, right? I've had this report from Rahul Singh, which says harsh conditions, altitudes begin to take a toll. And this is a story about some Chinese troops have been evacuated from the Finger Four Heights to 4 field medical facility. And that's the truth. And this is where Brahmachandani is slightly wrong. Right? This would have played to this patience and negotiations would have played to China's advantage if it was slightly earlier. Right? Now they're pushing it. They're pushing it, and they have a problem at this stage, because they're coming on to winter. Their soldiers are just not ready to face that. So they're going to have, if they have to take action, they're going to have to take action before October. But please don't forget, folks, the Indian Army is not the same as that of 1962. But more importantly, China's army is not the same one in 1962. 1962 was hungry Chinese soldiers. They had been brainwashed by Mao. They were not used to the good things in life. They were just following orders. This particular army, on the other hand, is soft, comparatively. All that hoo-ha about they keep doing with their kung fu and wung fu and all these sundong and ding-dongs that we have, it's just propaganda, folks. Don't get scared. Then as you have a report on China, it says Big Brother is watching. A report by Nayan Chanda. It says, addressing private sector employees at a conference this week, she called on companies to create a backbone team of private business people that is dependable and usable in key moments. She did not explain why business needed to be dependable or how they might be used or what he means by key moments. But his calls for companies to be patriotic and share the worries for the country suggest a sense of urgency. Veteran China watchers Bill Bishop has called this mysterious reference ominous. So anybody who actually now even propagates Chinese companies, and especially people like for fighting still for Huawei, actually need to put this in perspective totally, because this is what China does. And essentially it's about this Article 7 of the China's National Intelligence Law, which stipulates that any organization or citizen shall support, assist collaborate with the state intelligence work in accordance with the law and keep the secrets of the national intelligence work known to the public. What is more important is Chinese attempt to obtain advanced technologies and industrial secrets through underhand or illegal means have reached levels that force the FBI to work overtime. We now reach the point where the FBI is opening a new China-related counterintelligence case about every 10 hours. My God, and that is something crazy, folks. And here is another thing that you must remember, that she has activated something called the United Front Works Department, a body that encompasses a network of Communist Party-backed agencies and organizations striving to expand an informal coalition of groups and individuals working towards the party's goal of realizing China's dream. And in this, he says he promised to support overseas China to help the motherland by various means. And that's what's happening, folks, here. Absolutely. And what is the other thing that what I'm noting here as we talk about it is that China jets enter Taiwan airspace, and Taiwan scrambles jets as 18 Chinese planes buzz the island. This is because the senior most officer from the State Department went to, and the Undersecretary of Economics Affairs went to Taiwan, right? This is kind of a really tough situation to be in for China. They're having to face what's happening in Taiwan. That's why I say, folks, their focus is divided, and if India has to take any action, it has to take it now, right? Then you talk about a report by a bureau. It says need to address 5G security issues upfront. Ajit Pai says allies in US, India should take network security decisions based on shared principles. And he is the US telecom regulator. Ajit Pai said 5G security issue needed to be addressed upfront, and it's about time we banned it. And based on the article I read to you earlier about what was said about what the Chinese government is saying to its companies, it is critical that we protect our interests and go with what Ajit Pai is saying, because that is what is in our national interest. So when this article Pankaj Doval writes, because as you saw, you must have read in the newspapers early in the morning that Paytm had been taken off the Google Play Store, right? And it's been reinstalled, right? But look at what he has to say. Google's action, abuse of monopoly. Vijay Shekhar, US company acting as judge, jury, executioner and beneficiary, says Paytm founder. He is a trader. He is Alibaba's trader. And this is where the government, I'm not sure, it's banned everything else. I am not sure why Paytm yet has not been banned. It's a sensitive play in India. It's got to do with a lot of information, got to do payments, and Alibaba has in its IPO said this is a critical component of Alibaba. So where is our government? When it's banning what it's banning, it has left the biggest McCoy on the table. I wonder why. And if Mr. what is his name? Vijay Shekhar should smell the coffee in the morning before making statements like this, because at this stage I think most people should walk against Paytm because of the ownership of Alibaba in that company. And now he's sounding like a horn for China. You know what I'm saying? Just like, apparently I was reading somewhere that a reporter just got nabbed because he was selling secrets to China. This is the whole problem with us, right? And as Nepal continues to finger us, Nepal introduces new textbooks with revised map. You have Pakistan, on the other hand, ensuring Gilgit and Baltistan continue to become part of theirs. Nepal continues to finger here, but these are the two real critical outliers in our neighborhood that we have to be really careful about, right? But what's happening is, when you as they say, as what Hillary Clinton had said, when you raise snakes in the house, be prepared to get bitten, right? And this is a report by Umar Farooq. Attacks surge in northwest Pakistan as Afghan talks bring shifting sands. Worried about losing ground in Afghanistan, Pakistan's Taliban seek to re-establish themselves. Pakistan has opened a can of worms for itself. But then, these guys are short-sighted. Imran Khan, the chief, they will sell their country. For what? Only they know, right? To get even with India, right? And that they got a hope in hell for that. Jai Hind.